Hello and welcome to Good Evening Britain, a Force for Good's weekly show coming to you live from our studios here in the heart of the great British city of Glasgow with me, your host, Alistair McConnachie. We are broadcasting on all our digital platforms throughout the United Kingdom and across the world. We're bringing you quality pro-UK comment and analysis every Wednesday from 7 until 8 p.m. on YouTube, on Facebook, on Instagram, and on TikTok. This is the show where we are British, we love the United Kingdom, and we want to stay together, and where we know we are in a battle for the hearts and the minds and the souls of all the people in this country. Ladies and gentlemen, please send in your comments tonight. Please tell us where you're viewing from. Please send us your greetings. We've been away for 2 weeks because we have been writing our second book, a big book for the Union. More about that later in the show. Folks, we are teleprompter free as always also, and you've got me right through until 8 p.m. tonight. Please tell us what you're thinking about the state of Scottish and British politics at the moment. A very interesting time that we're having all round. TikTok is notifying viewers that we are live. One way that you can help notify viewers that we are live is by sharing, please. If you're watching on YouTube, please smash that thumbs up button. Give us a like on Facebook. Give us a share on Facebook. And please retweet if you're watching on Twitter. That really does help to get the message out there, because we are Scotland's premier pro-UK show. Okay, we have been running, this is our 81st show named Good Evening Britain. Prior to that, of course, we had Good Morning UK, Have Your Say, and prior to that we had Saturday Street Stall. So we've been going now since early 2020 with a show almost every week, and if we've not been broadcasting, it's for a good reason, such as writing a book, and we're so excited about the book. Let me tell you more about that later, but first let's say hello to a few people who have come in tonight. Now, Derek was first in. Derek says, good evening, Alistair and the AFFG family. Nice to see you back, and hopefully not too far from finishing your book. Derek also says, good luck with your Christmas crowdfunder. That's starting tonight as well at 7:30. Our annual Yule Britannia Christmas crowdfunder, a 28-day marathon of fundraising the cold, hard cash that we need as an organisation to stand up for the United Kingdom in 2024. Adam says, what would you do with the English Channel crossings? You're referring to the small boats. I'd ship them off to the Isle of Man. I'm sure the people in the Isle of Man would. Thank you for that, Adam. Or the Isle of Wight or the Scilly Isles for processing. The sensible ones will be sent to the mainland, while the dangerous ones get sent to Cyprus. Well, that's an idea. Send that one in, but I don't know. What I would do in that particular instance would have an offshore processing centre that, like on a tanker, a converted tanker, parked outside Dover. You don't actually set foot on land. You just get taken straight to the tanker. You get processed like a sort of Sylvester Stallone movie. You know, what's that one called? Escape Plan, where he's imprisoned on a tanker and he has to escape from it. Something like that. And I'm not really joking when I say that. Obviously a little bit more humane. And you just process them immediately. And if they don't accord to a set of criteria, then you ship them straight back. And once they realised that was the deal, then they would stop crossing eventually, because they'd be like, well, we're not going to go through with that because none of us ever make it onto the land. There's lots you can do. This is the thing. There's a lot you can do, and maybe talk about this later in the programme, but there's an awful lot you can do if you have the government that's got the mentality that wants to do something about it. Our problem is not even the numbers of immigrants coming. Our problem is that we have a ruling class that is not interested in stopping this problem. And so we have to ask, why is this ruling class not stopping this problem? Is it because there are people who don't want it stopped? Is it because the people who fund the British political system don't want it stopped? You know, I had a workman came round to our office last week, and he was looking at the various stuff in the office, and he realised that we were into politics, and we started talking about politics, and he goes, you know, the trillionaires, he said, who run the world will be prepared to spend billions to ensure that they can keep making trillions. And I thought, that's a very good way of putting it, actually. And these people don't care. They don't care about things that we care about, like having a nation. They don't care about that. They just care about continuing to make trillions of pounds. And in those efforts, they will be prepared to spend billions. Well, we're not asking for billions for our Christmas crowdfunder, but we will be asking for 5,000. I'll speak about that in a moment. Yes, as Stuart says, the folks of Vintner will be chuffed with that. Michael's putting the boot in here. He says, we have here in England an unelected Prime Minister running a party of liars and the Mayor of London persecuting Londoners with his Yule's tax. That's for sure. Ventnor is that Isle of Man? I think it is. Christopher says we should go down the Australian model regarding illegals. Not quite sure what their model is, but fill us in on that, please, Christopher, and I'll read it out. Stephen says, nearly all the problems that the UK is experiencing as regards the Constitution have stemmed from the establishment of Holyrood. Administrative devolution should replace it. Well, yeah, that's the constitutional problems that we're facing at the moment, and it's just about highlighting those things. Yes, Stuart says Isle of Wight is Ventnor. Yeah, that's right. Yes, absolutely. Well, let's talk about the Christmas crowdfunder, because that's the first thing we'll talk about, because that's starting at 7:30. And let's put up the address for the Christmas crowdfunder. Now, you won't be able to get this page working just now until 7:30. So our Christmas crowdfunder runs every year. This is the 6th year that we've done it. It is the main way that we make money in order to ensure that we can campaign in the coming year. And it runs for 28 days, and it begins Wednesday the 29th of November at 7:30, when the crowdfunder.co.uk/AFFG 2024 link will go live, and it will run right through to 7:30 on the 27th of December. We're starting it a little bit earlier this year because we're in the Christmas spirit a little bit earlier, and also because the organisation needs the money a little bit earlier as well if we're to make it to the end of 2023. So, but no, seriously, we're going to be able to get through that. We just simply need to get through to the end of 2024, and this is what is going to help us to do that. Now, what do we need the money for? We need the money for the basics, and we need the money for additional campaigning. Let me just quickly run through what those sorts of things are. Now, the daily online publication and broadcasting that just simply keeps us going every single day. Daily on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter, on YouTube, and on TikTok. This year we've been publishing every day on these platforms in some way, and that's really quite an achievement, but we've got to keep that going. We've got to keep the team that does that retained so that we can keep that going, so that we can keep ensuring that we have a broad presence on all the social media platforms. We need to continue to do at least a weekly broadcast. Next year we're going to be looking at maybe mixing it up a little bit, see how things go, but definitely a weekly video broadcast of some description. We have to keep doing that. And in particular, our TikTok, which is where we get our most of our video views, we need to build upon that. And ideally, if we were to make more than our minimum 5k that we need, then we would look at developing on Rumble, which is an up-and-coming video channel as well. We'd really like to have a presence on that. Our outdoor activism. This year we've done 12 street stalls. We're going to have to do 12 street stalls again next year, which we're looking forward to. Any Scottish nationalist marches are going to have to be visited. They're going to have to be videoed. They're going to have to be counted and put up on our website in order that we know their true numbers and in order that we can provide physical evidence of their true strength. We need to maintain what we like to call an event response capacity. And this is actually something that we definitely really do need, but we need additional funds for it. And hopefully that will come from the crowdfunder. And this is basically our ability to respond to events as they come up and as we see them coming up on the horizon, which may mean, for example, getting posters designed, getting banners designed, getting travel costs covered, things like that, an event response capacity. And we also need to continue to do our hard copy publishing. We have done 2 good Union Heart magazines this year. Next year we've got 2 lined up, possibly 3. The first one will be coming out in the early spring, which will be Busting Indie Myths Volume 2. And then during the course of the summer, we want to do a special edition on the 110th anniversary of the beginning of World War I, with a particular focus on Scotland and Ulster for that one. And then towards the end of that year, we're going to be doing Volume 2 of a big book for the Union. So we're going to need the costs for that and the graphic design costs for that as well. And so all of these things require a minimum, just to do the basics, require a minimum of 5k, which is what we're going to be looking for, and ideally 9k as a stretch target. So we'll see how that goes. But if you can help at all now, and you only like to give maybe say once a year, then now's the time to do it, because we've also got lots of different rewards up there as well. And more rewards are going to get added this week. But there's everything from Union Jack duvet covers to Union Jack bobble hats to simply getting a free book, getting a free wee book for the Union, and other things like that, as well as, of course, the wooden flags that we always bring out each year that for generous donators, they can also claim a wooden flag. Let's actually have a look at the ones that we've got so far on that particular matter. We've got the Union Jacks, we've got saltires. There's the Union Jack one, which is a really nice one. That's 32 inches wide. Okay. We've got the saltire. Okay. That's a really good one. That's half Ulster, half Union Jack. Really attractive one, that one. Okay. And that's half saltire, half Union Jack with a lion rampant shield in the middle. Very attractive. And that's one for a USA citizen that lives in the United Kingdom. The Stars and Stripes and the Union Jack together. Fantastic. Okay. Good. So all of these are on our site. It will be going live, crowdfunder.co.uk/AFFG 2024. That will be going live at 7:30, which is to say in 12 minutes time. That will be live. And you don't need to claim a reward, of course. You can simply just make a donation of your choice using the buttons on the right hand side of the page. So good stuff. Good stuff. And anything that people want us to do next year as well, please also just tell us, and we'll see if we can use some of the crowdfunder money that comes in for that as well. What I want to do is I want to talk in more depth about the immigration catastrophe, and I also want to talk about the book in more depth. But before I do that, I think we'll have a On This Day in British History. It was on the 29th of December 1890 when Thomas Tunnock began his family-run baker's shop in Uddingston. And quite frankly, tea time was never the same since. And he has created one of the most successful confectionaries in the United Kingdom, if not the world, known to us all today, of course, as Tunnock's. And it's currently run by his simply his grandson. Currently run by his grandson, Sir Boyd Tunnock. We've got a picture of Sir Boyd Tunnock, which we'll just put up there. And there we go. There's the man himself, chewing on a Tunnock's wafer. Tunnock's caramel wafer. And the Scottish Nationalists got a little bit upset with Tunnock's 2 or 3 years ago. Well, not 2 or 3 years ago, maybe about 5 years ago, when they were running adverts promoting their Great British Confectionery. I think we've got a picture of that, which we'll put up as well. There you go, the Great British Tea Cake, Tunnock's. And that led to a small demonstration of Scottish nationalists outside Tunnock's factory, which was countered by some of our folk who went along to eat Tunnock's tea cakes in front of them. And that was quite a crazy moment. I think that was back, I can't remember what year that was back in, but we certainly told them that we love Tunnock's tea cakes and we stand by Tunnock's as a great British company. Okay. So it was on this day, 29th of November in 1890, when Tunnock's was established. JMA86 says, what's your thoughts on the recent poll published by the SNP? Very sceptical, I have to say. We don't take any poll really with any degree of seriousness when it's published by a vested interest, whether that's the SNP, whether it's the Tories, whether it's Labour, whether it's even Unionist or Scottish Nationalist campaigning groups, because they've got an agenda, and you can fix an opinion poll to get the answer that you want if you have enough money and you ask the questions in such a way. So we just take it entirely with a pinch of salt, because we know that particular opinion poll was claiming there was a massive support for separation, which is certainly not. Although I will say something which we have to be very conscious of as Unionists, and that is that the more Westminster messes up stuff and makes an absolute hash of running the country, then it's going to encourage people to vote SNP. And for our part, we would say that the immigration catastrophe, which is going to be continued for the foreseeable future, whether we have Tories or Labour, is going to make a lot of people wonder just what's going on. Our job as Unionists is to keep focused on the big British picture, to ensure that we keep promoting the truth of the United Kingdom. But at the same time, our politicians in Westminster seem to be doing everything they can to mess up the UK, and that is, of course, a big concern for Unionists who are trying to win the battle for public opinion. For example, the latest figures showed that there was over 600,000 net immigrants into the United Kingdom. But if you look at the gross figure, that is the amount of people who came in overall, before you subtract the people who left, it was over 1 million. Now, that is simply completely and utterly unsustainable. That in itself could collapse the country. That those levels of immigration could collapse the country within the next 5 years. If that's repeated every year for 5 years, there's no way any part of the United Kingdom is going to be able to cope with that. Everything is going to collapse. And so you have to look at our politicians and think, what on earth are they doing, and whose agenda are they following? And that's a real big thing. And as I say, it's not the immigration situation can be solved when we solve the political problem, which is the ideology and the funding that is driving our politicians of all sides to promote this national suicide, whether they're Tory, Labour, or, well, especially SNP and Greens, because they're just idiots. They're just idiots. Like, let's all just have more immigration in Scotland. You know, they're just like, no, shut up. You're not even part of the equation because you're just an idiot. You know what I mean? We're dealing with the people who are running the country, which is Tories and Labour, and we're trying to ask, why are they not taking charge of this? Why are they allowing this in? What's the ideology behind it, and who are the people who are promoting it, and what are we going to have to do to stop them coming in? Meanwhile, the SNP and Greens will just be sitting there talking rubbish as always, just because they don't know any better. The SNP and Green politicians, they do want to collapse the country, but we're looking to people like the Tories and Labour who can perhaps still have some kind of degree of control over things and some kind of degree of sensibility. But we're not even seeing that. We're not even seeing them able to exercise what they need to do. And what do they need to do? We spoke about it last time on the show a couple of weeks ago, and I put all of that into words in an article which I put up here. And let's just quickly run through that, because it can't be said enough. The first thing that needs to be done is that we have to clear the legal path so that we can do what's physically necessary. And the legal path means that the first thing we have to do is to leave the European Convention on Human Rights. And then the second thing that we need to do is we need to rewrite certain elements of the UK's Human Rights Act, because the UK Human Rights Act is a direct mirror, a direct copy of the ECHR, and it's basically written the ECHR words into British law. But we do need to rewrite certain elements of that. But we can't rewrite certain elements of that until we've actually left the ECHR, because the ECHR won't allow us to rewrite certain elements of that. So once we've rewritten certain elements of that where necessary, and indeed perhaps even built upon elements of it, such as strengthening the free speech and freedom of assembly rights, once we've done that, then we will be then free to create a new law specifically, which is a qualification for UK Asylum Act, which will, where necessary, disapply certain elements of the Human Rights Act in certain specific cases where that is necessary to do, so that you'll be free to deport people. You'll be free to set up a tanker outside Dover where you process everybody without allowing them onto the land. You'll be free to send them back. And in all of this, it shouldn't really be necessary to even leave the UN Refugee Convention. All we need to do is adjust elements of it in our own domestic law, where the UN Convention doesn't have any legal force in the United Kingdom, but we are a member of it internationally, but it doesn't have any legal force. But we can stay a member of it, but just ensure that where necessary, we add elements to it in order to reflect our particular circumstances. For example, we could say that you're not entitled to claim asylum if we deem you to be an economic migrant. But that will have to be written into law, because at the moment we are required just to accept everybody who claims asylum under the UN Convention. But we can add to it and say, well, we're actually going to add our own requirements. Now, that might cause a fight with the UN, but so be it. We have to press on, because times they are a-changing. And the UN Convention was written back in 1951, and it was intended to deal with the fallout from World War II. Well, that's a long time ago now, and the world has changed in so many ways. Then we need to abolish legal aid for all immigration and asylum cases, and we need to essentially defund that massive industry. And then we need to abolish the right of appeal in asylum cases. And it's not even required under international law, the right of appeal. But Britain, soft touch Britain, added it back in 1993. And then once you have the legal ability, then you can do what's necessary physically, which will include disbanding the Home Office Immigration Department, which is failing miserably to deal with this, and contract it out to a private corporation that can do it for financial incentive. And then once you've done that, well, the sky's the limit. You build up the border force, you stop boats in the channel, you physically return them to France, etc., etc. And of course, certain elements will scream blue murder. But if you are prepared for the fight, if you're a politician with backbone, then you just have to do it. And of course, we all know we have no such politicians at the moment in the main parties. So it's our job to build up that mentality. And I added a little bit there, which I'll just read out. Make no mistake, this is a revolution of the mind, because to call into question, let alone upend, the UN Refugee Convention and the European Convention on Human Rights is a direct attack on the globalist internationalist order which was established after World War II in the West. And these conventions are central to that post-war international settlement. And they're of a piece with the entire settlement post-war which the modern world is constructed upon. And so, therefore, to throw them off will be a revolutionary act, which, as I've said here, may not occur until other societal changes converge to overturn that settlement, until enough people see that the post-World War II settlement is not working in this nation's favour. Then it has to get thrown off. And when it gets thrown off, that is a complete revolution of the spirit and of the mind, which will cause a peaceful democratic revolution in society. But that's what we're dealing with here. It's overturning it all. It is equivalent to saying the circumstances in which the modern world was created after World War II no longer apply. We must now forge a new direction. But the good news is that more and more people are questioning how we got into this situation and why our world is the way it is. So we seem to be moving in this direction. We seem to be moving in this direction. And I do believe that times are changing. But I also feel that there's dangers. I think that the system understands that it's changing and it's going to start clamping down hard, especially on freedom of speech and on freedom of me to even say things like what I've just said in the last few minutes, which the system doesn't want to be heard. And we've seen in the Republic of Ireland where the response to the murder, the stabbings of these children has provoked the Irish Parliament to rush through so-called hate speech laws, which are intended to stop people coming up with the solutions to the situation, and intended to marginalise people who try to come up with solutions, intended essentially just to maintain this globalist internationalist order. And we're heading that way in the United Kingdom as well, under the Tories, and it will especially be the case under Labour. We're heading that way. So, hence one of the reasons why we want to get onto Rumble as well, which is one of the few remaining freedom of speech channels, and that's one of the things that we're raising money for in our crowdfunder, so that we can start publishing on Rumble, because we don't know how long voices like ourselves will even be allowed on YouTube. Having said that, Elon Musk has been good with Twitter, but don't think that the powers that be haven't seen the danger of what Elon Musk is doing with Twitter, and don't think that they won't bring in all sorts of crazy laws to stop him being able to publish. This is why freedom of speech is so important. Freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, freedom of protest. It's all we've got at the end of the day against the powers and principalities of this world. Derek says, great show again from the team. Keep up the good work. Well, thank you, Derek. Now, our crowdfunder should be live now. It's at crowdfunder.co.uk, AFFG 2024. Let's see if it's working. It's working, and we've received a tenner. Fantastic. A tenner from Rachel Burns. Thank you, Rachel. That's very, very kind of you. Folks, we're calling it Help Us Do More in 2024. That's the name of the crowdfunder page. Help Us Do More in 2024. Because we like our rhymes. Leslie Walker says thank you to the person that donated. Good. Now, let me tell you about One Big Country, a big book for the Union, Volume 1. So excited about this. So excited about this. You know, we decided to write a book, and then we thought, you know what, there's so much to say. This is going to be like a massive tome that nobody will ever read, because it's going to be like, you know, about this thick. And so a colleague of mine actually was our co-director who came up with the idea of doing a series of books. And a series of books is really good because, say, if you do 5 volumes, somebody buys volume 5 and then they find out, oh crikey, there's volumes 1 and 4. What do? They go ahead and they buy that. So as the years go by, you sell more and more books because people want the full collection. You see what I mean? So we're starting with volume 1. It's called One Big Country, which I think is an absolutely great name for it, which in itself is a campaigning phrase as well, which we came up with. And it's 26,500 words. So it's going to be about 120 pages. So it will be bigger than a booklet, but it will be what's called a slim volume. And it is going to have, on the cover of it, it will be our classic Kelpies with the Union Jacks. And the content is intended to be appropriate for a general election year. Now, it's divided into an introduction plus 19 chapters, which themselves are divided into 6 parts. And part 1 is entitled We Love Our One Big Country. And that's 4 chapters on just what a great thing the United Kingdom is, which of course we can wax lyrical on for a very long time. But we've got 4 of our best pieces of writing in there on that particular matter. So that's setting the stage. That's the base from which we grow everything else. Then part 2 is something we're very keen to emphasise, which is about devolution and what it actually is. Understanding Devolution is the name of that part, and that's an education in itself, not just to readers, but especially to hopefully politicians who will also acquire copies of this book. Then part 3, we look at the concept of the mandate, and because this is going to be important for a general election year, because the SNP is going to be talking about how it's got a mandate for a second referendum, and it may very well continue to achieve the majority of MPs in Scotland. And if it does that, it's going to claim that it's got a mandate. And you know what? There'll be plenty of people in the Labour Party and Lib Dems who are prepared to go along with that. So let's not forget that. So we have to be clear about what does properly constitute a mandate and what would the SNP need to do to get a proper mandate. So we break that all down in 4 chapters. So that in itself is very educational for the politicians and for everybody else. And then part 4 is rules for pro-UK politicians, and that's divided into 3 chapters, which is about how best to communicate the matter. And one of the chapters there is called Don't Talk Separatism into Existence. Don't speak separatism into existence. In other words, how to talk about the Union in such a way that you don't use a separatist frame, you don't use a federalist frame, instead you use a pro-UK unity frame. So that's 3 chapters on the unity frame rather than the separatist frame, which so many politicians unthinkingly adopt. Then part 5 looks at the Labour Party's plans, because as we've said before on this programme, the Labour Party's plans, if they get elected for the British Constitution, are incredible. I mean, what they're going to do is not going to help the Union in any way. And not many people know this, but it's Gordon Brown's ideas. So we're explaining briefly what they are and what's wrong about them, and we're doing it from a concerned perspective that if you're a Labour supporter or if you're a Labour MP, you're going to read it and you're going to think, yeah, this guy's right. This is a bad idea for our party because it's only going to help the SNP. So we've done it in order to appeal to that demographic so that they know not to go down that route. We wrote a big dissertation on this a few months ago. This element of the book is a shortened version of that, and we've tightened it up in a much better way. And then the final part 6, is about A Force for Good, and that's 3 chapters about what we do, what we're up to, what we want to do, and how we see the future. So that's going to be ready for purchase, as I say, hopefully Monday the 11th of December, at the latest Thursday the 14th. But it's in the finishing stages. It's just requiring the time for our graphic designer to get round here to the office so that we can touch it up. So we'll keep you posted on all of that. And we encourage people when it's out there. It's going to be $9.99 probably. Won't be much more expensive than that, but we encourage people not just to buy a copy for yourself, but to buy a copy and send it to your local politician when they, either before or after the general election. So that's going to be good, and we're lucky to have the platforms that we can put this out on. So we'll be heavily pushing it. And ideally, and this depends upon what money we make at the Yule Britannia Christmas Crowdfunder, but ideally we'd like to launch it publicly. Hire a hall and have a public launch of it. And invite just whoever wants to turn up. That could be fun. But that would require a wee bit of money, and that's if we've got any additional money after the crowdfunder finishes. Cool, I think that's everything I want to say about that. By the way, if you're a monthly supporter, we've still got some of these Christmas cards, which you can have for nothing, right? Because they're a little bit dated now. They don't have the... they were produced when the Queen was still with us. So we're down to just a last batch of these. And so if you want any... In fact, anybody watching this show, if you want some, contact us. We can send you up to 10 each. Folks, free. Okay, our little gift to you, our viewers. Cool, so what do people think about the book idea? Tell us what you think on that. If it's likely to work or not. Just checking. Derek likes the idea. Keep calm and carry on. Well, we'll be seeing Derek this weekend because we're going to have a street stall. We've got 2 street stalls planned for December. If you'd like to join Derek and I on the street, then contact us at contact@aforceforgood.uk, and we'll keep you posted about where we're going to be and how long we're going to be there for. And it's good fun. So we'll be out twice in December, and then we'll be taking a break from street stalls for a month or so. Or probably not even a month, probably about a month. Christopher says the book idea is excellent. History book series are a prime example. Yeah, we've been inspired by that idea. Stuart says it will work with us Unionists. We have intelligence. It's persuading the others to read it that is going to be harder. Now, what is happening there on TikTok? Somebody's asking where it's going to be sold. Well, it will go up on Amazon, and it will be printed with each order, so we won't be handling any of it. And one of the good things about Amazon in the sense is that they handle all the distribution. We don't need to buy like 1,000 copies and hope to sell them all. It's simply bought on demand from Amazon. And then what Amazon will do is, for everybody else who's normally just surfing Amazon looking for books, say if you're interested in British politics or British history, then down the bottom will come suggestions for you, such as you may be interested in One Big Country, a big book for the Union, Volume 1, by Alistair McConnachie, published by A Force for Good. And people are going to go, well, there's literally no books on that subject at all on Amazon, so $9.99, they're going to buy it. And the more people that buy it, then the more it's going to show up in people's recommendations, which means the more books you're likely to sell. And so what this is doing is it's allowing us to reach a whole new audience with our material. So I think that it is going to do relatively well for us. I really do feel that. I've got a good feeling about it. And then as the years pass and as we continue to knock out more volumes, the series will continue to do even better. And so it is an attempt on our behalf to try to get an income stream coming into the organisation, in addition to our crowdfunder, in addition to our union supporters, in addition to the occasional one-off donors that very kindly support us. Good, so let's get the crowdfunder address up there. crowdfunder.co.uk/AFFG 2024. And remember, folks, Christmas is coming up, and there's nothing better for a unionist friend than a wee book for the union. That's the top of the hour. We'll be back next week. Hopefully Eric says congratulations. Thanks, Eric. We'll be back next week, hopefully with a guest as well. And our crowdfunder will be continuing to run right up until the 27th of December for the next 28 days. Folks, you've been a great audience. It just remains for me to say, God bless the United Kingdom and God save the King. See you next time.